Hi everyone, so I just wanted to do this small recording for you just to go over the basics of Pilates, just so you have them, which will be quite useful in class if you've never done Pilates before. Or just to give you a little reminder. So first of all, we're going to lay down onto the mat. We're here in neutral pelvis and spine. So what that actually means is if you tilt the pelvis and imprint the lower back and then arch the other way, the midpoint between the two is your neutral. So you feel your tailbone heavy, the back of the ribs heavy, and the back of the head heavy into the floor. So this is our start position. Let your shoulders just be relaxed. Now everybody's spine will be very different, different shapes, tightnesses, etc. So if you feel that it's difficult to, some of you might have more of a curved spine here, just aim as much as you can to have the back of the ribs into the floor and the tailbone heavy. Okay, so from there, we're going to breathe in. Now, as we breathe out, I pull up the pelvic floor. So I'm feeling the front passage, the back passage going in and up. And I feel the tummy hollow in, and then I'm wheeling the pelvis. Feel the lower back imprint, and then I lift the pelvis, lift the spine, and I feel my knees stretch forwards and keeping my ribs down. So I've got the breastbone, pubic bone, and knees in a straight diagonal line. Now from here, I'm going to breathe in. And then as I breathe out, I'm just going to soften the breastbone, and I feel one vertebra after the other sinking into the floor until the lower back imprints, and then I just release my pelvis at the end. So I'm going to breathe in. As I breathe out, I pull up the pelvic floor. I feel the tummy hollow in, and I wheel the pelvis. And then I'm going to lift the pelvis, lift the spine, stretch the knees forward. Feel that openness in the front of the hips. Breathe in. And then as I exhale, I just let gravity take me down. Feel each vertebra sinking into the floor, coming forward and down, forwards and down, until I feel that lower back imprint, and then I release. So there's our spine curls. Now, if you're feeling any pain when you tilt your pelvis or anything like that, and when you lift the hips, you can always just not go as high, or you could just do the small tilt. I would adjust these depending on what I'm seeing, either on the screen or when I see you in class. But what's important is we stretch out through the hip flexors, you work into the glutes, the back of the legs, down into the feet, and you're keeping the ribs down so that you can actually feel what's called the rib to hip connection. So that means your abs are engaged, and we're not letting these ribs just flare and the back extend, keeping this down. So there's our spine curls. Another, a lot of movements that we do is in flexion with the Pilates. So hands behind the head, and I would adapt this accordingly. But we've got the tailbone heavy, and from here, I'm going to just take a deep breath in. And then as I breathe out, I chin tuck, head nod, pulling the tiny muscles in, pelvic floor pulls up, and I'm going to curl up and over the breastbone, looking down at the belly button. Now, when I do this, what's important is I don't tighten here. So if you're not used to Pilates, sometimes if you're a gym goer, etc., you're used to imprinting that lower back and tightening. This causes your hip flexors to work, but not the lower abs. So this is why we just let that tailbone be heavy. We don't imprint that lower back, it will slightly flatten. But by having the tailbone heavy, you're feeling the lower abs more. So that's why we do that, and we're going to curl up and hold. Ribs down to the hips, feel here working, breathe in. And then as you breathe out, just let the eye focus go up the body as you lower back down. So you breathe in to prepare. As you breathe out, you're just going to chin tuck, head nod. So my head is gently pushing back into the hands and they curl up and over the breastbone. I hold at the top there, breathe in. And then I exhale, let the eye focus go up the body as I lower back down. So I breathe in to prepare. As I breathe out, I pull up the pelvic floor, tummy scoops in, and I chin tuck, head nod, curl up. Hold, breathe in. And then I exhale to lower back down. So that's what's known as a curl up. That works into mobilizing the upper back, works through the abs, and then what we do in Pilates, you then add the legs, the arms, to challenge your core more while maintaining that curl up. But again, everything is very much layered on, so body control Pilates style, so that it's safe, and also you've got lots of options and you can work at your own level. What's important is the main thing, tailbone heavy, back of the ribs into the floor when you curl up. So, but if you can't curl very high, don't worry. Sometimes if the back is tight, it just takes time to get the mobility. So nothing is forced. We're working on mobility and we're working on strength. So another thing is pelvic stability. So for here, we're going to pull up the tummy muscles, pelvic floor, and we knee fold one knee. Now, when I go to bring the second leg up, I think ribs down at the front, so I've got to engage the upper abs, keep the back of the ribs into the floor. And when I bring the second leg up, tailbone heavy, exhale, that leg should feel light and it just floats up. And then I'm going to breathe in as I lower one leg down, tummy scoops in, engaging the glutes slightly as I lower that leg, and then I exhale as I lower the second leg. And then we alternate the leg that lifts first. So tummy pulls in, pelvic floor pulls up slightly, knee fold, tailbone heavy, back of the ribs into the floor, exhale, second leg lifts. So that kind of looks quite easy, but if you're trying this with me and you're new to Pilates, you might find it's not actually as easy as it looks, because your abs you can feel working, and it's quite hard to keep. There's a lot of strength that you're working on to keep your ribs, your pelvis, your spine still as you bring that second leg up. So often people feel a little shift in that lower back when they go to lift that second leg. But with practice, thinking ribs down, tummy in, so think rib cage closure, when it helps to lift the heel first and then slowly peel the toe up. So that's a good practice to do, just to build up that strength. And then once you've got that, we then curl up, and then we would add either the knee fold, keeping the pelvis still, or we add double toe tap here, and then we exhale as we lower one leg and breathe in like that. So we would then build up the work here, holding that curl up, and go into the other exercises in Pilates, which would be things like single leg stretch. So you reach one leg away as you bring in the other knee in, elbows wide, turn up from the top of the hip, and reaching the outside ankle, inside knee. So you're maintaining the curl up, you're maintaining the neutral pelvis, and alternating the arms and the legs. But again, for a beginner, I would literally get you to keep the head down first and do this, get the patterning first, keeping everything still in the center. The more you take the legs away, the more you're challenging yourself, and then you would go into the curl up. So one thing that I can say is often you might feel a lot of tension in the neck at first. That takes time to build up the deep neck flexors. So we need to chin tuck, It's like you're pushing the chin. If there's a wall behind you, you're lengthening the back of the neck. Or there's a hand behind you, you're pushing the back of the head and neck into that hand. So you feel the deep neck flexors stretch there, so you're lengthening them. And then you head nod, and then you would curl up, moving from the rib cage. So this is why it's quite important to get that chin tuck, head nod, and then move ribs down to hips. Because by doing that, we're building the strength to help our posture in the neck, and we're also then able to hold the curl up position, looking down at the belly button, and then carry on doing all of these kind of moves, picking up the pace. But as I've said, we'll be doing this depending on who's in the class. Work at your own level, and I can give all of you different variations as we go along. So there's one, they're the fundamentals of being able to do those knee folds, the curl up position. Another thing I want to tell you, which a lot of people sometimes at first find a bit hard to get their head around, is the oblique curls. I'm going to show you from this position here. So you're laying on your back. It's the curl up position as we did just now. And with the oblique curl, you're just feeling the armpit going across to the hip. So you just twist the head, the neck, the ribs, looking at the back elbow, and then curl a little bit higher. There. So you can see as I'm moving, and then we lower down, I'm actually staying in the frame of my body. Armpit going across. I'm not going over like this to the side. So sometimes people go too far over to the side and they're trying to get as much rotation as possible. But basically, you've only got maybe, 40 degrees rotation in your thoracic area. You're lucky. So there's not a big range of movement there. We're working on that rotation, but we're working on our obliques as well. So I'll just show you, we breathe in. And then as we breathe out, chin tuck, head nod. Feel one armpit going across, the other one twisting back. And then I curl higher to feel those obliques. And I feel them quite strongly. And then I lower back down. Breathe in. As I breathe out, armpit going across, twist, curl higher. Tailbone is heavy, thighs are relaxed. And then I come back to center. So how much twist can you have in your torso without letting the pelvis move? And how much can you come up? It's just that intention of going a little bit higher, and then you really feel here. So they're the oblique curls as well. Now another thing is the breathing. So everyone at first, if you start Pilates, sometimes people get so wrapped up on the breathing, and I would just say just breathe normally if it feels too much to take in. There's a lot of information and a lot of focus that you need on doing just the movements alone. So as long as you're not holding your breath, that's fine. I talk people through the breathing as well as we go along. But what I do want you to do when it's time for you to take that all in is if you place your hands on the lower ribs, what we try and do is thoracic breathing, because when we can breathe from here, you're working those intercostal muscles, but also you're able to better maintain your core stability in flexion when you're breathing here rather than up here or here. So that's why we do thoracic breathing. So we breathe into the side of the ribs, and then we exhale. Breathing in, exhale. It's like you're knitting the ribs together when you exhale. So that's a good one to practice. It's good to practice in front of the mirror. And it just feels quite nice. And you can feel a stronger contraction in those abs with that exhalation. Everything else generally is about your alignment.